It's time for Health Futures with Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and it must be Friday. And indeed it is. We're coming at you live from the Scottsdale Air Park. It is Friday, November 8th, and it's good to have you here on our show today. And if this is the first time you have tuned in to Health Futures, our show is a show about how our older adult population can live a healthier, happier life. And how do we do this? We do this by bringing extraordinary guests to the show. And we've been pleased to be able to do this for the last 6 years. And today is no different. I've got one of those extraordinary guests here in this show. I've got Traci Beagley. She is one of the owners of Sunland HomeCare, and she is also a breast cancer survivor and a volunteer for Banner MD Anderson Cancer Center. So welcome to the show, Traci.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you, and you and I have had a chance to get to know one another over the last year.
Yes.
And you are in this space that we call home care.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't know that home care is an option. Most people think when their loved ones get older that they need to move out of their home and they need to move into an assisted living or independent living community, but they can stay at home.
They can stay home. And most people want to stay home. They want to age gracefully and stay independent in their home as long as possible.
Or they say it's over 90%.
Right, 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. So you're relatively new to this space in home care, and I would love for you to share with me as well as our listeners, how'd you come upon home care?
Sure, I'd love to share my story. So my great-grandfather and my grandpa, Ross Farnsworth, they built the first 55-plus active adult community here in the Phoenix area back in, like I said, 1958.
Wow.
And so my family has had a legacy of serving seniors for over 60 years here in the Valley. So I grew up working with seniors, volunteering with seniors, going to events with seniors. That's the job that then it was passed on to my dad. That's all I knew growing up.
It's kind of in your DNA.
It's in my DNA.
Absolutely. And mainly in the East Valley. And,
yes.
And people would know the Farnsworth family and aging communities. It was Sunland, right? Is it?
Yes. So the first community started out as Dreamland Villa, but then the second one was Sunland Village. Then the third one was Sunland Village East. And then the fourth one that they're just wrapping up is Sunland Springs. So That's how we get our name, Sunland Home Care.
And is Dreamland still around?
It is.
Nice.
It
and
is.
That was 1958.
1958, the very first one.
And now you're in the home care space.
Yes.
And tell me how, I mean, it's in your DNA, but how did Sunland Home Care start?
Sure. So about 6 years ago, my family started the Summit, which was a memory care unit out in East Mesa. Then a couple years later, we realized, you know what? People want to stay home and they want to age at home. And now that we have these 55-plus active adult communities, we want to keep people at home as long as possible. So then we started Sunland Home Care, and that has been open for almost 4 years. And then a couple years ago, the Summit built an assisted living. So we have a place for people to go and move into if that's the best for them, or we actually can keep people at home where most people want to stay.
Well, it's nice because, as you serve the community, you give people options.
Yes.
Like home care companies like me, home care is really my only solution. I have other partners.
Right.
Cypress does, and we refer out to other people, but you kind of wear both those hats. You wear the Summit Assisted Living hat as well as the Sunland Home Care hat.
Yeah. And we do have other partners around the Valley because, there's no one-size-fits-all option, as you know.
Absolutely.
And so it's important to have good partners all over the Valley. And thankfully, as you know, there's so many good people in the senior healthcare space. And it's so important to know those people that are in it for the right reasons, that are not trying to take advantage of seniors, but actually do what's best for them, regardless of profits and money and things like that.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's nice to know you, because there are a lot of people that fit that description you just described, but there are also others that are in it for the money.
Yeah.
And you and I know those folks. And, the fact that your family's been doing this since 1958 is quite a testament. So doing the quick math, that's 61 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, you know what? Every decision that I make, I think about my grandpa, and I think, what would he choose? And you know what? It's always about putting people first. And when you put people first, it will always work out.
It definitely does. And, that's what we do every day. We help these families. These families navigate to those options. I look at us as almost Sherpas.
Sure.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Sure.
We're helping them, because when they are in the midst of change, and that change can be a number of different things. It can be an accident like a fall. It could be a diagnosis, or it could be just the fact that they're getting older and they need some help with activities of daily living.
Right.
I mean, it's nice to be able to go to someone you trust. And I will tell you, you are very blessed to be associated with a family that is deeply rooted into this area. So it comes by a lot easier than others that may be just trying to get started.
And you may say it comes a lot easier, but at the same time, I feel a huge responsibility to ensure that we provide a good quality service and good customer service and continue this reputation that we have. And I don't take that lightly.
No,
it's really important to me.
And it's obvious. And our paths cross more along the lines of advocacy.
Sure, I love that.
And I do too. And I mean, there's nobody better than us to be able to fight for the vulnerables that are out there, the vulnerable adults, people that are challenged to have someone speak up for their rights. I've talked about it before. I served on the board for the National Association of Home Care and Hospice, and our founder, who's now passed on, he used to say the last civil rights battle was making sure that every American had the ability to age in place at home, because home care should be an option for everybody. And unfortunately, it's not.
Yeah, I agree. There's so many different dynamics, as you know, that go into keeping somebody at home. And unfortunately, sometimes it's just not the best thing, either for the individual or for the family. But having the option, and that's what I am passionate about, is letting people have the choice.
Right.
That's so empowering.
Right. So 4 years new into it. Wow. How do you like it so far?
Oh, I love it.
I can tell. I can definitely tell. And the greatest thing about it for me is the fact that we help families, and the fact that we get those phone calls and we get those personal interactions and hearing firsthand the differences that we are making in lives every day and day out.
Yeah, it's so incredible. People call us when they're in crisis.
Right.
Right. And so we're able to go in, and if home care is not the option for them, that's okay. We have other options, and we just want to help you through this difficult time in your life. And that's what we're about. If we can help take some of that stress and pressure off of you, we want to be there to help you, whether it's us or somebody else. We want to help.
Well, I love that about you. I also love the fact that you like to learn. And we were just talking about conferences and stuff like that. And there is no shortage of learning in our space. And, one of the areas that you have an expertise in, and as do we, and we talked about it a little bit before the show started, was the fact that you have got experience with Summit in the memory care area.
Sure.
And, it's challenging for us because we have so many that are dealing with memory care challenges, and there has to be solutions. And I know I shared this with you off the air, and I've shared it with our listeners. I spent nearly 10 years on the board of directors for the Banner Alzheimer's Foundation. Mm-hmm. I also was the memory care chair. We just came off the Alzheimer's Walk last weekend.
Yes.
I did that for 4 years. We need to have solutions, and Summit Memory Care is definitely one of those solutions, and so is Sunland Home Care, as is Cypress. Our caregivers are gifted and equipped with skill sets to help those that are afflicted with this horrible disease.
Sure, and I know you do this at Cypress, but at Sunland, we also do specific training for people with dementia, and because it's so prevalent nowadays. And so we want to be able to provide good, competent caregivers for our clients.
You've been listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth. Can't believe we're down one segment. Stick around. Traci Beagley from Sunland Home Care will be right back.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and if you're just tuning in, we're on segment number 2, and I got Traci Beagley. She is a partner in Sunland Home Care. She's also a breast cancer survivor and volunteer for the Banner MD Anderson Cancer Center. If you missed our first segment, go up to the Cypress Home Care website. Click on the media button, third button down is radio show. You'll catch that first segment and about 300 others that we've been bringing to you for the last 6 years. So, Traci, you telling us about Sunland and, 62 years almost of experience.
Yes.
You have been in the home care space for 4, and you've learned a lot about home care, but senior care comes naturally to you through your DNA, which is fabulous. I mean, when you really think about it, you're looking at your great-grandfather and your grandfather and now your dad being in the business. So
Yes.
Fourth generation?
Yes.
Nice. Really, really nice. And if anybody wanted to reach you, if they want to learn more about Sunland, how do they find Sunland and how do they get a hold of you regarding care?
Sure. So you can always go to our website, sunlandhomecareaz.com, and you can call our office at 480-447-8893.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've really enjoyed getting to know you, and I look forward to working with you more in the home care space. You were one of our future leaders, and I really look to you. And I know you asked me, how do I get more involved? And I said to you off the air, be careful what you wish for, because I'm gonna volunteer you for other things. But when I described who you were when we first started the show, and I described at the beginning of the second segment here, I talked about you also being a breast cancer survivor and a volunteer for the Banner MD Anderson Cancer Center.
Yes.
So I wanted you to take our listeners through a little bit about your story, because you were a survivor, and I know that you did not have an easy road.
You're right.
And I would love for you to share. We just came off of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and you've got an incredible campaign that is still going. But I want you to talk a little bit about your diagnosis, how this all came to be, and now your commitment to really getting the word out there and really helping our community understand that they're not alone. There are resources out there to assist individuals that are dealing with the same disease. Sure.
Well, I love to tell my story now, but actually, Bob, it started about 10 years ago with a conversation I was having with my grandpa, Ross Farnsworth, in his home, and he told me that he had been approached by some people asking for some money because they were going to build a cancer center here right in Gilbert, Arizona. And he told him that he was going to donate some money to the cancer center because someday someone in our family might need the cancer center. And he wanted to make sure that we had a good healthcare partner here in the Valley. Well, fast forward 10 years later, in February of 2018, I found a lump in my chest, and after several appointments, I was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. My doctor referred me to Banner MD Anderson Cancer Center, and I made an appointment, and I walked through those doors, shaking, terrified, scared, crying with my husband, and I walked into the new patient registration desk. And as I looked up behind the lady there at the desk, there was a plaque, and it says, proudly supported by Anita and Ross Farnsworth. And so that conversation that I had with my grandpa 10 years ago flashed in my mind, and I thought, oh my goodness, I am in the right place, and I'm going to be okay.
Wow. That's just amazing. And who knew? I mean, MD Anderson, I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about Banners. They have 3 centers of excellence here in our community.
Yes.
The Cardin Children's Hospital, the MD Anderson Cancer Center, and they also have the Banner Alzheimer's Institute.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, I can remember first moving here 25 years ago. There were no resources here as related to cancer treatments, and now we have this stellar place called MD Anderson Cancer Center. So you walk through that door. Can you walk me through, I can only imagine, first of all, finding out that you have breast cancer.
It was devastating. I have 3 children, running my own business. I was 37 years old. And you just don't ever expect to hear those words. This kind of stuff happens to other people, not to me.
Right.
And here I was in the middle of fighting for my life.
And, beside finding the lump, I'm just curious, did you feel icky? Did you feel,
not at all.
Lethargic? Did you felt normal?
I felt totally fine.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you walked in the door. Tell me what your experience was when you walked in.
Sure. Well, when you go to Banner MD Anderson Cancer Center, I was really angry. I had to work through a lot of emotions, and I was just angry. I was just mad at the world. I didn't have time for this.
Right. Who does?
I didn't want to be there. And when I walked in the door, every time I walked in, people were smiling. The volunteers were happy. They were offering me water bottles. They were offering snacks. It was clean. It felt good. And I just was like, how can these volunteers be so happy in a place like this? Because I was so mad.
Right. Of course you were.
Yeah. So once I was able to work past some of these emotions, as you mentioned earlier, I like learning. And once I realized I was going to have to put work on the back burner, I was going to have to 100% focus on me and my health and fighting this horrible disease, I just threw myself into the cancer world. And I wanted to learn everything about breast cancer and everything the MD Anderson Cancer Center had to offer. I wanted to do everything that they had to offer. And I did. What is so special about the Cancer Center is everything that I needed was under one roof, which is not common in the cancer world. And so I could do my labs there. All of my scans were done there. All of my doctors were there. I had a psychologist. I did physical therapy. I did acupuncture, massage. Everything I needed was under that one roof. And it took so much stress and pressure off of me so that I could just focus on fighting cancer and trying to get rid of this horrible disease in my body and get better.
And not only that, I mean, you and I have talked off the air. Yeah, you had the 100% support of your family behind you, too.
An incredible family.
I mean, they knew Mom needed to really focus in and dig in because she was in the fight for her life.
Yeah. My husband is amazing, and my 3 children really stepped up. And you know what? Although you think, my gosh, I never want to put them through that again, our family really grew together, and my children experienced this compassion. And what was interesting is while I was going through cancer, my son's teacher at school was diagnosed with cancer. And I got a call from the office one day saying, did you know that your son donated $100 to the teacher's cancer fund? And I had no idea, but because of the compassion that he learned from this experience, he knew what other families were going through.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So you had the family support system. You have the support system with the MD Anderson Cancer Center. So, I mean, one of the things you walked us through is the fact that you didn't need to leave to go anywhere. It was all done there. I mean, and one of the things that you've shared with me also, I mean, all the appointments, everything was done. I mean, it was almost like you had a travel agent that was reporting exactly you were going to be scheduled Monday here, Tuesday here, Wednesday.
Yes.
It was just like that.
Yeah, and I would just get a printout every time I left of my reports. What's amazing, too, was I had 3 different doctors there, my oncologist, my surgical, my breast surgeon, and then also my reconstruction surgeon. My whole team of medical professionals would meet every 2 weeks regarding my case. And they were all coming together from different disciplines, different perspectives. And that way they could talk about my case, what was going well, what wasn't going well. And I felt like everybody was on the same plan, and it made it really easy for all my different appointments because people knew, the doctors knew what the treatment plan was.
Wow. It's hard to believe we're down 2 segments, and it goes really, really fast, as you can see, Traci. I want to talk a little bit more about some statistics in breast cancer. I also want to talk about genetics.
Sure.
and how, if that may have affected you. But hard to believe it. We're down 2. It's halftime here. I've got Traci Beagley here in the studio. Stick around. We'll be right back.
What can make me feel this way, my girl?
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and we're in our second half of our show today. It is Friday, November 8th, and I've got Traci Beagley here in the studio. She's a partner with Sunland HomeCare. She's also a breast cancer survivor and a volunteer for the Banner MD Anderson Cancer Center. If you missed the first 2 segments, you can catch it right up on our website at cypresshomecare.com. The third button over is media. Click down, third button down is radio show. You'll catch the first half and about 300 others that we've been bringing to you. So, Traci, we were talking about home care in the first segment, how you got into the business. You've got a long, long legacy of care, senior care in your family, coming up on 62 years. You also talked about being a breast cancer survivor in our second segment, and I really appreciate you letting us into your personal life and sharing your story with us. And when we left off, I wanted to come back and talk to you about genetics, because everyone I hear, or a lot of what I hear about breast cancer survivors, is it is sometimes genetically connected, and they have the BRCA gene.
Right.
Did you go through it? And I would imagine that may be part of the thing that MD Anderson did for you. They may have had genetic testing inside, or did you go to a genetic counselor outside? Mm-hmm. Walk us through, at least our listeners, as to what you went through.
Yeah, sure. So right after I was diagnosed, the first 3 weeks consisted of all scans and appointments in order to prepare for my treatment plan. And one of those appointments was genetic testing. And it was actually a spit test that I did. And at the cancer center, there's only 5 certified genetic counselors in Arizona. And Banner MD Anderson Cancer Center has 2 out of the 5.
Wow.
So it's incredible. So I did that test, and actually my results came back negative, that I was not BRCA. I did not have the BRCA gene. And my cancer was just completely random. There's no history of it in my family. And what's interesting is most people, it is random. There isn't a family history of it that we know of yet.
So you're touching on something I want to really get into this third segment, is some of the data and some of the statistics, because, I mean, data drives everything today. Yeah. And, you were one that was afflicted with this illness, but how many women what is the percentage of women that get breast cancer, men that get breast cancer? What are some of the signs to look for? I got lots of questions. I don't know if you have the answers, as you can see.
I've got a couple answers, but 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer.
In their lifetime? In their lifetime.
Wow. Which, if it's not you, it's somebody that you know. Unfortunately, it's someone in your family, coworker, neighbor. You're going to know somebody, and it's becoming more and more prevalent. It's 1 in 8, over 800 men will be diagnosed with breast cancer. So it's not just women that are afflicted by this terrible disease.
And it's interesting because not most people think that men can get this, but men can, and men should check as well.
Absolutely. But of those 1 in 8, only 5% of those women under 40 are actually diagnosed with breast cancer. So I was one of the 5%, because I was diagnosed when I was 37 years old.
Wow. And one of my questions to you is, the type of cancer you had.
Yeah.
Had you not taken action Was it one of those aggressive kinds?
Yes, definitely. In the breast cancer world, I was estrogen positive and HER2 positive. HER2 is a protein that our body makes. Because I was HER2 positive, that is an aggressive form of breast cancer. And about a year and a half ago, they actually came out with another chemo pill that I've been taking in order to help prevent a reoccurrence because of this aggressive type of cancer.
So is that something you still do today?
Yes.
And is that something you'll do the rest of your life?
No, I'm only supposed to take it for the next year.
Okay.
But because I'm so young,
right,
and I have a lot of life to live. And
I can see that, and our listeners can hear that.
And because it's aggressive, my oncologist is taking a very aggressive treatment approach, which, I'm so thankful for.
Oh, absolutely. And your family, I'm sure, is as
Yeah.
well. So, anybody or many people could play that victim and gotten through this and, say, woe is me. But you didn't.
I did.
Initially,
for a little bit.
Initially, you did. But, you've done something with this. And I really want you to talk to our listeners about what you're doing now, because you're not just a home care agency owner running Sunland Home Care. You're almost like an ambassador for breast cancer awareness as well as for survivors. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you're doing now?
Sure. Well, you know what, Bob? I know how devastating it was for me physically, emotionally, mentally, financially. And I had the best family in the whole world. My business was able to keep running while I was out fighting this disease. A lot of people are not blessed with the things that I was blessed with.
Absolutely.
And so I have met a lot of people through this, and I hear their stories, and I keep thinking we have to do something. And I love to solve a problem and take that problem and do something good with it. And so even while I was fighting breast cancer, I was trying to figure out, how am I going to make this better so that other people don't have to go through what I went through?
I love that you're thinking that. I really do. Because it's got to be a lonely existence. It's a personal thing.
It is.
And like you said, you hear about this about other people, but you never think it can happen to you.
Yeah. But you know what? There are always good things. In my opinion, there's always good things that happen when bad things are happening. And I had to change my mindset and look for those good things that were happening all throughout this journey. The people that I've met, other people that are breast cancer survivors that I've connected with, have become dear friends. And these are people and experiences I would have never had any other way. Now, do I wish I would do it all over again? No way. Do I wish this experience upon other people? Absolutely not.
Exactly.
But I'm just trying to make the best of it.
So tell me what you're doing.
Yeah. So
this is exciting, and I know we'll run into the fourth segment, but let's kick it off and talk about this campaign that you've created and that you're behind.
Great. So the Cancer Center asked me a couple months ago if I would be the face of the breast cancer campaign. Banner MD Anderson Cancer Center has partnered with Bashes, and in October they were raising money, and 100% of the funds raised are going to breast cancer research. And so if you went into Bashes during the month of October, you would see my picture on a flyer or on a poster right when you would walk in, and my picture was next to every register in the 55 Bashes around the state.
Wow.
And so people could buy an icon there at the register, but they could also buy pink ribbon water bottles that Bashes makes just for this time of the year. And so although the icons finished in October, you can still go in now and purchase pink ribbon water bottles there in Bashes, and 10 cents for each case of water bottles goes directly back to the Cancer Center and supports breast cancer research for people like myself.
I love that Bashes got behind this.
Amazing.
Is that something you were able to do, or did Banner work on that?
Banner and Bashes have had this partnership.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Nice. So, one of the questions I have, and it's hard to believe we're winding down our third segment, is, your photo was in all 55 stores. Have you found yourself where people, say, hey, I've seen you before, You're the girl that's in the Bashes store?
Yes. Not not only like friends would send me pictures, standing next to my poster, but colleagues have seen things like you saw my story in a banner email that went out.
Absolutely.
There's also been some videos that have been made. And so, you know what? I just feel so thankful that Bashes realizes this importance, and, a shout out to such great community partners.
Absolutely. They gave you the platform to really talk about this. Hard to believe we're down 3 segments. We got one more. I want to learn a little bit more about this Banner Foundation effort, and then we'll wrap up our show. You've been listening to Health Futures Taking Stock in You. I got Traci Beagley here in the studio. She's from Sunland HomeCare, and she's also a breast cancer survivor and volunteer for Banner MD Anderson Cancer Center. We'll be right back.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth. And if you're just tuning in, we're in our last segment here, and I'm pleased to have Traci Beagley here in the studio. She is a partner in Sunland HomeCare, breast cancer survivor, and volunteer for Banner MD Anderson Cancer Center. We've covered a lot of territory, Traci, and it's really great having you here in the studio.
Thank you.
We left off in our third segment talking about the Banner MD, and first of all, the Banner MD Anderson Center, as well as the Banner Healthcare Foundation. So you've been running this campaign. We finished October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Yes.
Bashes is still doing the icons.
The pink ribbon water bottles.
The water bottles.
So you can still go in and buy the water bottles, and money will still be donated to the Cancer Center.
And is that going to run through the end of the year, or is it just the month of November?
I was told through the end of the year.
Okay, so everybody listen up. Buy those water bottles.
Yes, if you need water, go to Bashes.
Well, you know what? I can't thank you enough for telling your story. And, there definitely is a lot of lessons that you've learned in life. And you, being a survivor, have got a second chance. And so many people don't get that second chance. And, I think more than anything, we want to raise the awareness to do self-examinations.
Absolutely.
Getting mammograms. And, you got diagnosed at 37. You weren't doing mammograms.
No, I was not.
They don't really want women to start doing them until they're 40.
40, yep. They don't recommend them till they're 40.
So self-examination is definitely the way to go. And, my wife does it with friends and has done it with our daughters.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, if you want, do it as a social outing, right? I mean, get a friend. Do it with, mothers and daughters are doing it, and, go to brunch or something afterwards, right?
Yeah, you know what? Early detection saves lives. It absolutely does. And I know at first it may seem awkward and uncomfortable, but you know what? It's because of early detection that I was given a second chance. And it makes all the difference, going from stage 2 to 3 to 4, your treatment plan is just completely different. So get over the awkwardness and just do it.
Perspective on life is so different today for you.
It's so different.
And being in the home care business,
yes,
that like we are, we deal with the vulnerable, the aging and elderly and frail. How can you relate this experience that you've gone through, this journey, and be able to empathize maybe with your clients? And I'm assuming that you're able to do this in a different perspective than you were prior to your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. It's changed my perspective on so many things. But one thing for sure is when I was going through my cancer treatment and going through chemotherapy for about 5 months, I was so terribly sick. And I was not able to care for myself. I wasn't able to do any scheduling for my family, my kids. I wasn't able to manage my medications. I couldn't make meals. I couldn't drive myself to my doctor's appointments. And even when I was in doctor's appointments, I couldn't hear what was going on because my brain is so messed up from the chemo meds. And you know what? It's exactly what our seniors are going through and my clients are going through. And so now when I sit there and talk to them, I can talk to them and relate to them on a different level and have so much compassion because I know what they're going through. You know, one of the most difficult things about cancer was losing control and losing my independence. And as I sit with seniors today and talk to them, they feel like they're losing control and losing their independence in their life. And it's my job and my ability to give them hope. I want to give them hope that we can either help them get back on their feet or help them stay in control of their life for as long as possible and give them their independence. And that is what I'm passionate about, and that's what we bring here to the seniors in the East Valley.
You know, it's remarkable when you really sit down and you think about it. You know, independence is something we take so for granted.
So much so.
And, you know, the first thing that we deal with older adults, and it's usually not our job, it's usually the adult child when they take the driving away.
Yes.
I mean, that's a big deal because
it's devastating.
It is, because now they can't get from point A to B. Although now we have Uber and we've got Lyft, so you can still get from point A to point B, more so than you could have years ago.
All right.
But the second is when you bring in a complete stranger into the household.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, like you, I walk into living rooms and kitchen tables.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it usually happens. And typically, if it's an adult child that has referred us in, usually the one or both you got their arms crossed and they are not open to having you in that
Very
room.
resistant.
And you know, this new perspective that you've just described must really disarm them. It must really put them more at ease because you can empathize and relate to them. You've seen that firsthand, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when I can talk to them, I tell them, look, we're not here to come and take control of your lives. We're here to assist you, and we're here to take away some of the harder tasks so that you can continue to live your life as full as possible and with as much meaning as possible.
I love that. I absolutely love that. You know, and like you said at the very, very top of our show in the first segment, not everybody can stay at home.
No.
And, you know, we wish they could, but if they can, there is an option. And
Yes.
I want our listeners to know that HomeCare can be an option. And companies like Sunland HomeCare and Cypress HomeCare, we're here to enable you to be able to have that option.
Right.
And, you know, the challenge today is knowing that companies like us exist, and we
Yes.
have to get that word out there.
You definitely need to do your research as a consumer, but there's some really amazing companies out there that are really strict in their hiring practices and that are good community partners. And you just need to do your research, but there's some good ones out there.
You know, and I want our listeners to know employer-based agencies,
Yes.
like the two of ours,
Right.
W-2, you know, we have all the insurances that you could ever want, you know,
Yes.
professional liability, workers' comp, and more important, we're paying the taxes.
We
And,
are.
and a lot of people don't realize this because they bring in independent caregivers, private caregivers, they bring in 1099 registries. You're responsible for the taxes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and as a W-2 employer, it's so amazing to be able to provide these services for our caregivers and provide paid training and overtime if necessary. And so it's definitely do your research before you hire a caregiver to come in your home.
And at the same time, both of our agencies are looking for caregivers.
Yes.
So if you are that person or you know of somebody that is a caring kindred spirit that wants to make a difference in someone's life, you know, look out to Cypress or Sunland. We're always looking for good, talented people.
Yes.
You know, it's hard to believe we're getting ready to wrap up our show here today. And Traci, I would love for you to maybe give some lasting thoughts or, you know, just a message for our listeners to take back with them in terms of your experience being a survivor and what is it you would like them to leave with today?
Yeah. You know, if you've been putting off having a mammogram or doing a self-exam, please don't hesitate anymore. Please pick up the phone and make that appointment and get in and get seen and just get that worry and stress off of your plate. And if you happen to be diagnosed with breast cancer, there are so many resources, amazing organizations out there that are there to support you And you're going to find a community of people that understand you, that have your back. And it is an incredible group of women that I have found, and I feel really blessed with.
Well, Traci Beagley, I can't thank you enough. You've been an amazing guest here on our show. I'd love to have you back.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. Make it a great day. Have a great weekend. We'll be back next Friday.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress HomeCare Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit cypresshomecare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM.